Hello and welcome back to the We Are City channel. For today's video, which is player analysis and scouting, we're going to go in depth into a player heavily linked to Manchester City in a position that we feel the club really needs. And that player is France and AC Milan left back, Theo Hernandez. Standing at 6 feet tall, the left back already has a illustrious career at the age of 24, playing for the likes of Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid and AC Milan. But it's his time at AC Milan where Theo has transformed himself into one of the most exciting fullbacks, probably the best fullback in Europe, one of the hottest prospects as well, and he's now first choice left back for the French national side. Theo possesses attacking talent, which is something most fullbacks in the world would be jealous of, and he also is a very solid defender as well, using his physicality and his speed to help him out in defensive situations. Now we're going to evaluate Theo whether he is the right choice for Manchester City, as he is the most heavily linked left back with the club, with City desperate to sign a left back. And we're going to split this into three parts. First, Theo for AC Milan. How does Theo play? How is he compared to other players? What is his stats like? 2, what is the style of fullback Pep Guardiola is looking for? What does he want from his fullbacks, especially a left back? And 3, and finally, how does Theo fit in at Manchester City? AC Milan's manager Stefano Pioli preferred to set up in a commonly used 4-2-3-1 formation, and Theo is a constant mainstay at the left back position in a relatively young AC Milan side. Both Milan's holding midfielders Benacer and Kessié regularly drop into the left-sided centre-back role to make a back three, allowing Theo Hernandez the freedom to push forward, perhaps sometimes into attacking midfield due to his quality high up the field with his raw pace, strength and skill. Milan, when patient in the build-up, regularly use their fullbacks, and teams in the Serie A have to back off Theo Hernandez of the danger he has either on the overlap or underlap. Milan's attacking play is generated from wide areas, with Hernandez at the heart of it. Whether it is on the underlap or the overlap, he's very versatile and his movements attacking. Milan also use the overload on the right hand side most of the time, which then allows them a long switch either through the midfield or a long pass across to Theo Hernandez, who can then burst into space. This dynamic running is a real asset to Theo's game. His ability to drive the pitch with his sheer strength and pace is unmatched in other fullbacks you've seen around Europe. To put this into perspective, Theo Hernandez averages 8.0 on progressive carries of the ball per 90 and 2.05 dribbles completed per 90. City's own João Cancelo, he managed to get 8.4 progressive carries per 90 and 1.89 dribbles completed per 90. So Theo is technically, by stats, a better dribbler, and we know how good João Cancelo is technically. And to put it in perspective, to compare Theo to someone who we know is a good progressor of the ball, Phil Foden averages 7.78 progressive ball carries per 90 and 1.60 dribbles completed per 90, meaning Theo outdoes Phil Foden, attacking midfielder, in this area of his game. Theo isn't just pure dribbling and running either. His creativity for a fullback is of high quality and can only be compared to someone like João Cancelo. Theo makes around 57.7 passes per 90, 81% of those completed, and he also has 4.56 progressive passes per 90. Now, comparing that to Cancelo once again, Cancelo has 2.1 progressive passes per 90, meaning Theo pretty much doubles the progressive passes that a player like Cancelo does. Theo is also a numbers man, and over the past 3 seasons, Theo Hernandez has managed to rack up himself in the league of Serie A 12 assists and 14 goals, showing his attacking output and also creative output as a fullback. Now, despite a modern day fullback concentrating purely on attacking output, Theo has good defensive qualities as well, due to his pace, physicality and strength. That helps him out defensively. He did start out his young career when at the Atletico Madrid academy as a centre-back. And this means that Theo is defensively sound. He excels in one-on-one duels with the opposition wingers, and he also is confident enough to step out and press the opposition from his defensive line when he needs to. The only negative to Theo's defensive side of his game is sometimes he does get a bit too carried away and too over-aggressive in his defending, which can lead to giving away unnecessary fouls and picking up unnecessary yellow cards. And he does average about 1.2 fouls per game, something that he could cut out of his game considering he has such a defensive potential. Now, what is Pep Guardiola particularly looking for in a fullback at Manchester City? Over the years, Pep has tried different types of fullbacks, wing-backs, fullbacks that tuck inside, false fullbacks, and all sorts of ways. But at the moment at Manchester City, he has 3 current fullbacks that are all very different in style. So Pep's most used fullback option is Kyle Walker. The English fullback has been a mainstay in the City side since he signed from Spurs in around 2017 for 55 million. And Walker is a style of fullback that is pure athleticism, quick. He's there for City because he needs to stop the counters, and most of the time spends his game dropping into a sort of back three with the other City 2 defenders, but can also overlap if necessary, although his issues in his game do come into the final third, where he's not the best crosser, he's not the best progressive passer, he's not the best at finding those little pockets of space, and he can occasionally drop into the midfield if that's what City needs, but his main job is cutting out counter-attacks, and he does that job perfectly. As for Pep's other right back, who also plays majority of the games at left back as well due to City's left back situation, is João Cancelo. He's one of the most productive fullbacks in Europe, a player that we've already mentioned in comparison with Theo Hernandez, and he actually outdoes Theo on a lot of stats and outdoes a lot of wingers and midfielders on his stats. Cancelo is a sort of fullback that will drop into midfield alongside Rodri, but most of the game he plays attacking, overlapping, or also he has the creative output of a player like Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva and Jack Grealish. João Cancelo is a man and a fullback who can beat a player for skill, beat a player for pace sometimes, but not to the scale Kyle Walker. He's not as good defensively as Kyle Walker, but there isn't many in Europe that are as creative as João Cancelo in that final third, where he can pick those killer passes. And finally, Alexander Zinchenko, who was an attacking midfielder when he joined Manchester City some years ago in 2015-2016, and then ended up being moved to left back purely to the fact that he is left-footed. He's found himself in the Manchester City first team from that, despite coming from the Russian league for only 1.7 million and never really intended to be a first-team player at Manchester City. Zinchenko is a player that is very, very reliable, one who hardly ever has a bad game, and one who is a sort of mix between Cancelo and Walker's quality. Zinchenko is not the quickest, but he has that sort of same quality as Cancelo, not on the same scale, to find and pick a pass, and his role really is to drop into the midfield alongside Rodri, protect that back line, hold off the counter-attacks from Manchester City in that perfect false fullback role for Pep Guardiola, but also his passing range is a real asset to his game, and his vision in football intelligence is one of the highest in fullbacks in Europe. Now, these three fullbacks are used whenever in Pep Guardiola's system. Regularly you see Walker on the right and Cancelo on the left fullback position, but Cancelo easily, as it is his natural position, goes to right back, and Zinchenko can come in at left back, or Zinchenko and Walker in the bigger Champions League games last season against PSG and so played alongside each other because they are more sort of defensive solid options compared to João Cancelo, who is much more attack-minded. And Pep mixes and matches between these fullback partnerships, and these players really do encapsulate what Pep Guardiola wants for a fullback. Now let's go on to, what the numbers are. So obviously Cancelo is by far ahead of the others in numbers. He is the one with the most attacking output and the one that you could compare to Theo Hernandez. And where does Theo Hernandez fit into this Manchester City side if he was to join Manchester City? Well, Theo Hernandez's strengths are dribbling, aerial duels, passing, key passes as well, and he likes to dribble, Theo Hernandez. We've seen that with his stats, how he's progressive with the ball, how he loves to beat a man in similar style to João Cancelo, but also he has that sort of ability to be physical and strong and quick and get back and defend, similar to Kyle Walker, and also he could drop into the midfield and he can pick a pass in similar style to Alexander Zinchenko. So Theo Hernandez, in my opinion, is the perfect Pep Guardiola fullback, because out of these three fullbacks that Pep already possesses in his team, Theo Hernandez is basically a mix of all the best attributes of all three thrown into one. Theo would be a massive asset in the Manchester City side. He can play like Zinchenko, he can push into the midfield when City are on the attack alongside Rodri and pick the passes from deep because of his passing range. He can play as what City don't have at the moment, which is a wing-back, an overlapping full-back. City don't have a player like that in Walker or Cancelo or Zinchenko. They both like to come inside, or all three of them do. Theo Hernandez can make those overlapping runs, and City, who do like to, similar to Milan, crowd one side of play and switch to the far side, Theo would be perfect at that, and Theo would fit in to this idea of Pep Guardiola could switch back to a 3-back or a 5-back, which he did use at sometimes when he first had Kyle Walker at the club, Alexander Zinchenko, in the 17-18 seasons, but he did have to stop using that after injuries to other left-backs. Theo also can play the Kyle Walker role. He can drop due to his quality and, history of playing as a centre-back in his youth days, can play as a third centre-back like Kyle Walker there, but also can play as an attacking midfielder sort of full-back like he does to Milan at times, as an underlap, not also outerlap, underlap as well as a full-back, similar to Joao Cancelo. So Theo Hernandez encapsulates everything Pep Guardiola wants in a fullback. He can do everything the fullbacks do already, plus more, and he would be a massive asset for Manchester City. And at maybe a 67-70 million price tag, he would be worth every penny for Manchester City. That ends today's episode, our first ever tactical analysis on a player and a new signing. We're looking to do more of these and a series of these throughout this year, so please do, if you've enjoyed the video, like the video, comment down below if you think this video was good, and if you want us to do another tactical analysis on another player, let us know. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we'll see you guys next time.